Okay, so I want to welcome everybody back to Creative Thinkers. My name is Miguel Valenzuela, and again, we have a wonderful guest, but this time we have an actually good friend of mine all the way from the other side of the world, Hong Kong. So I want to welcome Martin Daniel to our show. Hey, Martin, how are you?
Hey, good, Miguel. How are you?
Good, man. So we're just trying to get a little bit of information about who you are, what you've done, all the creative, awesome things that you've done throughout your life, basically, and a little bit about the history. So me and you actually met in El Paso many years ago. Now you've traveled all over the world. But when you were in El Paso, you weren't really a native from El Paso, were you? Can you give us a little bit of background and history?
Yeah, absolutely. I was born in Vietnam, smack right in the middle of the war. Okay, I grew up, everything seemed normal then because you were constantly surrounded. I didn't know any difference. Okay, we felt hunger, but everyone was in the same boat. We were all hungry. And, just struggling, every day struggling, I thought that was the normal way of life in Vietnam. I remember finding food on the floor, like a cookie, and picked it up, ate it, and I felt like I was the luckiest kid in the world, eating a cookie off the ground. Okay.
I can imagine.
Yeah, so it was a totally different world. I mean, so when I came to America, I got adopted. I got really lucky. We got adopted by a soldier. That's why my last name is Daniel. Okay, so but my
what is your original name?
Hoang Khoi Vu. Okay.
Cool.
And Vu is the last name of my Vietnamese last name. And I always said, okay, you know what? I'll change it back when Mr. Daniel passed away, but I'll keep it out of respect. Well, the guy's still alive, okay?
So you got a ways to go then, right?
I'm like, forget it. But my other brothers and sisters have changed their name back to Vu. Okay, so but I'll keep it, and my kids got Daniel and everything too. But we do put the Vietnamese last name into there. So yeah, so I was lucky. I got adopted right before, actually a year before Vietnam fell. Okay, so I remember watching it on TV in America about how the people was hanging on the helicopter and everything, and and then my mom was crying. She said, there goes Vietnam. I remember that day, clear as day. And but to get back, I didn't realize how rough and how violent the surrounding I was in when I was growing up in Vietnam. Because when I came to America, everything was like beautiful. Everyone's lawn was green. It was cut. Everyone had a car, a yard. And it was space. And I remember school, and when they gave me lunch, and I looked at the lunch, and I said, "This is all for me, one person. I didn't have to share it with anybody. Everybody had this tray, and I thought it was the best thing in the world. I looked forward to school just for the lunch." Okay, I remember coming home from school, telling my mom, I go, "Mom, they gave us a whole meal by herself, and it had drinks, it had all kinds of stuff." That's to tell you how far away, Vietnam and America is. So every day I count my blessing, thank God that I was removed from that environment to America. So
that's
America,
awesome. That's an
great.
Awesome story. Yeah. What about when you got here to America? How were you influenced? Because you ended up being just like a huge creator. You create all kinds of stuff, which we'll be talking about a little bit later in the show. But how was this kind of influence coming from a country like Vietnam into America influence you into being this creative individual?
I think all of us are born creative, but from seeing and remembering the dramatic difference of one lifestyle. If you were born, let's say if I never left Vietnam, I would never see the difference. I would never know. So that part would never come out. So, but when coming from a really poor and violent background to a peaceful one, then you can actually reflect back and see what changes. Because I remember even in the third grade, because I've always I've always liked to draw, and I've noticed that I could draw and illustrate a little bit better than the rest of the kids. Okay, and that's one thing I knew that I had a little bit special talent that and then I started expressing myself. And in the 3rd grade, I was doing some illustration. I was drawing war pictures of soldiers getting blown up and stuff. And the counselor called my mom in. They called
red flags were going up.
Yeah, red flag and stuff. Even for back then, back in the 70s when they didn't have red flag. But they're like, this kid might, he seems pretty angry. And they called me in, and they said, they showed the picture to my mom, and my mom's like, yeah, so what's wrong? He draw this all the time, but to her that's normal because I was just showing what I saw in Vietnam,
Right.
And stuff like that. And they're like, well, he seems a little angry and all this stuff. And she's like, well, you got to understand where we came from. And I said, I'm sure in time that I'll start being a little bit more less of this kind of art, especially coming out of a 3rd grader,
So did you end up drawing flowers and hearts and things like that eventually?
I never, ever drew flowers, hearts, and stuff like that. I drew more pictures about humanity and how we treat each other and how they're unjust and how unfair. I think that's a lot of artists, we're pretty sensitive to that kind of stuff. We're very keen to it. And so we express it through that. And I always thought that living in America, then I'm always reminded about how my cousins are still back in Vietnam and how poor they are and stuff like that. And I see how rich America is. So I always painted pictures in that kind of aspect. And I wish I had taken pictures of it then, because a lot of my art, people liked it. When they liked it, I gave it away. And I've given away most of my artwork. And back then I said, because I don't care. I can paint more, obviously.
Right.
And but for some reason I didn't take pictures of these things. But for one of them that I really remember was I went into this series where I painted for humanity, where a man was completely naked and he's down to his knees, which means a symbol of he's humble. He's got nothing to offer, and humanity needs now is help. So he's on his knees, but he has his hand raised over his head like this, and I entered that into some contests, and then I told a little story about it and stuff, and won, and they're like, wow, this is profound. Yeah. And again, we did not take one picture. My mom, there was a ton of contests that I've always entered, and no pictures. And I used to paint pictures about the government. Like I did like this is kind of funny. I painted a picture of these 3 men in suits, in black suits, and they were wearing shades and with the hat, but it's all in black. But you didn't see their face. It was like, you only see sunglasses look like it's floating in the air and the hat floating in black. And it said, men in black, government or mafia. Because I've always, back then, I thought I couldn't tell the difference because of all the shady stuff the government was doing, remember that with the Contra weapons exchange.
And all that. Right.
Yeah, the Iran Contra. Yeah, it was that kind of stuff that I was never trustful of the government. I never liked to depend on the government. I think that's our natural independent thinking.
Absolutely. Especially coming from another country into this country, and you begin to change the way that you kind of perceive things. So me and you actually met in college, and we were both at UTEP, and we're studying art. So where did you go from there? Did you stay at UTEP?
No, I stayed at UTEP for only 2 years. Then I decided this wasn't the direction I wanted to go, because I wanted to get into more of, because I felt I like painting. I actually love painting, but I love designing. I always like to, I see things differently. I like to put things together.
Yeah.
And then one of my professor told me, if you're more interested in this field, you should get into more of a design school, more catered to your needs. So that's when I transferred to the Art Institute of Dallas. Okay, so from there I learned graphic designs and a little bit of packaging and product, but it wasn't exactly this kind of school I wanted to go to attend either. I should have back then, back in the 80s, I should have done a little bit more homework and attended more of a actual like product design school and stuff like that. So mine was more of a commercial art background, visual communication stuff. Yeah. So, but when I got out of college, my first job was to design. I got really lucky, but I was in-house promotion for. When you joke earlier, did you ever paint flowers and stuff? And I said,
no, but I made flower arrangements, right?
Yeah, I had to design flower arrangement of all things. I'm sitting there putting flowers up and I've designed the packaging for it, and I had to choose the color. I had to choose. So that was like one of the best experience of my life, because straight out of college, where I thought I knew a lot of things, but going from college to work, and what work taught me was I didn't know anything. I didn't learn anything in school except your basic color, what goes good with that. And other than that, you're on your own. Okay. And then I had a really, really tough boss, which at that time I thought he was, a bastard. He would yell at you in front of all the customers and stuff like that. But now I look back and I actually thank the guy, because my first job out of college was my toughest job ever. Okay, the demand was, the bar was set so high. I mean, we would work 24 hours and finish all this and work on like 3,000 product, and I would forget one, or one didn't get shipped, and he would yell at me. Yeah, I would get yelled at so bad in front of everybody for one product, and I go, "Can't you see all the other stuff that's done right? You're only pointing this out." But but because of him, I didn't want to get yelled at. So it put the bar really high. And that's set. I think that's really important. Is your first job. For the rest of your the bars, because every other job after that was a cakewalk. I'm like, I can't believe I'm getting paid for this. It was easy. It was like the vacation.
That's the life, right? That's the point that you want to get to. When you were designing all of these things, how important, in your opinion, was creativity for what you were doing? Because one of the things that we find a lot is that people don't think they're creative. And as you stated earlier, creativity is something that everybody has a part in. So how important is creativity?
It's 100%. You must have it to have a creativity, because one thing as an artist, we always see things different from people. Most people would just say, example, a cup. Everyone look at a cup and they say, "What is that?" You say, "It's a cup." Now, the artist in us would say, "How do I make this stand out? How do I make this cup different? What do I need?" Then that's when the creativity is already, because it's already done. It's already invented. So now you got to go beyond that. Okay. Now with work, okay, it's exactly the same way. Now they say, okay, make this thing different. We need to sell this. Everyone else can make it, but we need to stand out as a company. So, and then after you come up with all this great idea, and they say, oh, this is the challenge of the work is, okay, now do it for 25 cents. What you want is
you don't just have to be creative by designing something cool and different.
Yep.
You also have to take that creativity to different levels, like economic aspects, right?
Economic aspect, because they're like, we added up all the stuff and you're at 75 cents or $1. You're way too high. Get it down. But want that same look. So now your creativity and your knowledge and stuff has to step it up another level. Okay, so they're like, okay, anybody can put gold on a thing. Now, what can you do to do it within that budget? That's the challenge, and I found that really challenging. I love that aspect of work. Okay, I was always trying to figure out how am I going to stand out and do it under this, and and so I joined this company in China. They've been asking me to join them for years, and I was working freelance with them in America. But finally, they've gotten too big and their accounts, and they needed someone full time. They couldn't work part time for them anymore.
Right.
So I actually had to go to China and work. I was there 3 months, there 3 months back. It was kind of rough at that time because I was a young family. I was just a new dad. My daughter was born and my son was just born. So that was the hard part. That was the really difficult part because it's hard to be creative when your mind is at home. Your heart is at home. Okay, so I kind of like lost the creativity. I just wanted to get into production part.
Right. Mm-hmm.
Then I noticed that my product was pretty similar to everyone else's. I lost that creativity. So when you create and design, your mind it has to be in a certain state. Okay.
Yeah.
And sometimes it just comes to you. You get that mind block, and then all of a sudden you're in the bathroom and it hits you, or you're laying in bed and you have to get up and write it. But that's how it works. That's how creativity works. But when I was in China, I wasn't even getting that. At the very beginning I was, but the longer I stayed, the more I missed my family and stuff. So I decided after, I think it was close to about 7 years of working in China, I said, okay, enough. But at that time, it was early 2004. I said, all the industry is going towards China. All the work is over there. So that's how I became to move to Hong Kong, excuse me. I sold everything in America and we moved to Hong Kong. And I thought, let's start my own business. And see, then I didn't realize what I was doing was by doing this, I became a businessman. I wasn't a designer, a creator anymore. Okay.
Right.
And that for
How
a
did
while,
that affect you?
it affected me dramatically because I noticed I didn't pick up a pencil. Before, I would just pick up a pencil to draw on a sketch pad. Anytime I was in a mood, I've noticed I didn't do that for a long time. I mean, literally years, I didn't pick up a pencil and a sketch. Yeah, I mean, doodling here once in a while, but that was it. There was no more creativity in me on this part. So one day I just said, we can't do it this way anymore. I'm dying inside. It's like almost flatline. And I said to myself, you need to do something more for yourself. So, and then by that time it was like 2008. There was a lot of companies that bailed out on me, and I ended up being held. I was held with the ball. Okay, I got stuck with the finances. There's a lot of companies, they took off with my money. Okay, a lot of artists, we're not good businessmen. Okay, we're creative things, and I try to put on too many hats. Okay, I try to wear too many hats.
That happens sometimes.
Yeah, so I had to get out of the situation I was in. So I just started again doing freelancing, doing just busting butt, doing different type of business. And it was always getting away from design. The whole reason I wanted to get back into, but life throw you a curveball, and
every day, right?
Yeah, every day. And, I just look back and I remember the hard days of Vietnam, and I'm like, you know what? What am I complaining about? This is a cakewalk, walk it off, stiffen up, and put your nose down and face the wind and just keep going. That's all you have to do. You just take one day at a time. Then eventually, after a few years, there was a light, and then things got better. My kids were older, life was easier, so I dib and dab into a different type of business. Like, I open up pizza shops, far from art, but I designed the logo and all that stuff. So I put that in there. But then I realized within the last few years, everything I was doing I still wasn't happy. Okay,
Uh-huh.
the creativity wasn't there, so I kind of backed away from the business, and I let my partners take over. So now I'm just, a small part of it. But
Right.
I've started a new company, and it wasn't all for. But my concept was, it's always back to my root in Vietnam. Okay,
Mhm.
it's the strongest root. I tell you, Miguel, because I always felt the injustice and stuff, and so I created this company. It's a new type of idea. It's a profit business type. It's called B business, and
Right.
what you do is, what I make, certain things, the profit goes back into the business to help, to donate. Okay,
Oh,
and
okay.
yeah,
What are you
so like,
making?
so. I'm starting out with these. It's actually this right here. It's 5E is the company, and I'm making survival gears, survival stuff for the consumer end, but the donation end is for survivors of a natural disaster. Okay, because
Oh, okay.
I was doing research, and it turns out that the number was astronomical. On average, 20 million people are homeless every year. 20 million are homeless, left homeless
Because of disasters?
because of natural disasters, and
Wow.
like fire, especially typhoon, flooding. See, we never hear about this because we live in uh, a well-structured city organization, but where they made everything has a higher standard. But if you go to like Bangladesh, some part of Vietnam, some part of the Philippines, there's millions and millions of people that just live in little huts that are affected by weather. Here we sit in our cozy house when we see a thunderstorm or a typhoon, and then we're sitting there drinking
Yeah.
warm coffee and go, oh, isn't it romantic? Oh, I love thunderstorm. But in the Asia, they're like, oh my God, here comes another storm.
Right.
Tie down, get the pigs, tie them up. See, it's a totally different attitude towards the same
Yeah.
situation. Okay,
And
that's to
coming
tell you,
from Vietnam, that's what
yeah,
kind of brought these ideas to you?
that brought these ideas back, that how privileged and how blessed I am to be living in such a place where I don't have to worry. Because I remember back in Vietnam when the typhoon came and the streets were flooded. But we were kids, we didn't know better. We
I,
got naked and we ran
I've
out in
only
the
seen
street.
pictures. Yeah.
Yeah, you always see kids playing in the water, but that's after the fact. But I never, of course, back then, you never thought about how many people lost their lives, got washed out into the ocean, and then
Right.
left homeless. So the company that I want to create, that I'm creating right now, is like a survival bag, okay? And it comes with a tent. It comes with 3 days supply of food and water. It comes with a whistle. It comes with water purification, a flashlight with a little hand crank generator so they can hear the radio, or they can, even if they have their phone, they can keep
Wow.
power. Okay, so
Yeah.
these keep them hope. That's the biggest thing, is hope. Everyone needs
Absolutely.
that. Once you give up hope, you're done. You're lost. If you're out in the ocean, you give up hope, you're gonna die. Okay, same thing on land. So this provides hope until more help can come, because a lot of time in storms in these kind of countries, the road get washed out, they can't come. So the only
Right.
way is by helicopters or some kind of airdrop. So I designed the bag to withstand an airdrop. You just drop it out of the helicopter, people pick it up, and it's self-explanatory. It's an inflatable tent, waterproof. It keeps them out of all that, the debris and dirt that comes into around that area from the storm.
And
That's
this
what
helped them
kills
survive for several days?
several days. It helped them survive because it keeps them clean. It has a little med kit and everything. It keeps them.
Wow.
It gives them that extra hope. Okay, and to stay out of that environment, that they have something to help them. Okay, because can you imagine you're sitting there comfortable and just in a t-shirt and boxer short, and then within a blink of an eye, all that is gone. All that,
Yeah.
everything
I
you
can
have is gone.
imagine.
Yeah. So if someone, and then you see this thing drop out of the sky, and it has everything that you need for basic survival. That is hope right there. And that's what I'm trying to do. I'm trying to give these people hope by creating this package. And so, and then I said, okay, see, the businessman in me is trying to figure out how to get traction for this. So
Right.
I said, okay, this is a big step up here, but I need to build a foundation down here. So I started creating a smaller package for the West. Okay, it's for basic survival. And what I've done a lot of studies that a lot of people that get out that get lost or get stuck, and they go and wander off and stuff like that, and they end up dying. Okay, because they gave up hope, and they got too lost, and they don't know any survival skills or and such. Okay, so and then you always hear in the news, oh, we found his car, but he's nowhere to be seen. So and they find his body 3 days later. Had he stayed in his car, but in his car he didn't have food or water. So that's when he got desperate and they panic. It's when people panic and they get scared, then they start doing things that aren't wise. They start wandering off. So
this is where your package would come into play. So these people have this package in their car and they're able to survive and maybe stay put for a while. Well, I wanted to tell you that all of these ideas, because I've known you for a very, very long time, are just awesome ideas, because individuals need to think a little bit outside the box, just as you're thinking, in order to kind of survive even your life when put in situations like that. And I wanted to thank you, Martin, for taking time out today, coming from us from Hong Kong all the way on the other side of the world, and being at home, as you guys can see, because we're still dealing with the whole COVID thing, to take the time out to talk to us. So I wanted to thank you for being our guest.
Not a problem. Not a problem, buddy. Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you very much. And I wanted to thank everybody for tuning in and watching the interview with Martin Daniel. So Martin, is there any way that our our viewers can get a hold of you or look at your product?
I will set up a website, and it's 5esurvival.com. Okay. So I'm setting that up right now as we speak. And then there'll be more informative videos and stuff on how people can help. And but everything is coming soon. I'm just setting it's like, again, we're still in the processing stage and procuring all the product to put together for people. And then just your basic, just remember, people, just remember, the most important thing is never to give up hope. Okay, that's I can't emphasize how important that is.